Reporting from Arkham Asylum, this is Mr. Rogues. In this video I count down my top 5 Batman covers by Norm Breyfogle. Norm Breyfogle, one of the greatest Batman artists of all time, sadly passed away on September 24th. He suffered a stroke in 2014, which paralyzed the left side of his body. Norm, who happened to be left-handed, therefore couldn't even do what he did best during the last years of his life. Truly a sad story, and passing at the age of 58, he left us all too soon as well. Norm is mainly known for his Batman comics from the late 80s and early 90s, written by Alan Grant and John Wagner. Together these guys created many new rogues for the Dark Knight, like the ventriloquist in Scarface, Anarchy, Victor Zsasz, and the Ratcatcher. The designs of these characters were, in other words, the imagination of Norm. His work will always be very special to me personally, as I grew up reading these particular comics. They were among the first Batman comics I read. To honor this great man, I decided to rank my top 5 covers by him. Norm being an artist and not a writer, I thought that would be better than ranking stories, like I did with Len Wein. Covers also showcase the artists at their very best. So let's get into it. Detective Comics 587. This, the first part to the Corrosive Man saga, was published in 1988. So this is a pretty simple image. Just Batman standing in a rain-soaked alley. But because it's freaking Norm Breyfogle, it's really effective. I love everything about this cover. The lightning bolts in the background, the rain pouring down, the puddles on the ground. The rain effects are done really well here. Batman himself looks absolutely awesome, being mostly cast in shadows. That's something Norm always did great, depicting Batman as a shadow-cloaked figure. We don't see Batman's face, and frankly I prefer when we don't. It makes him scarier and seem almost supernatural. Then there's the cape, blowing in the wind, with jagged ends. It looks like you could cut yourself on that cape. Norm's art wasn't all that realistic. And it wasn't supposed to be. Unlike his predecessors, who went for a photorealistic style in the vein of Neil Adams, Norm instead drew highly stylized art. This was often illustrated with Batman's cape, which was at times impossibly long, and like you see here, sharp like a razor blade. It may not make sense, but damn does it look cool. I imagine this cover is seen from the point of view of some fleeing criminal, who tries to escape by running into the alley, only to be met by this sight. Yeah, if it was me, I'd be shitting my pants. Detective Comics 590. This is the cover to a one-shot story published just 3 months later in 1988. The image is pretty similar to the previous one. It's just Batman standing there in a cool pose. An artist of a lesser caliber could easily have made this into a bad and boring cover, but that rarely ever happens when we're talking about Norm Breyfogle. So again we have Batman's flowing cape, jagged with razor-sharp teeth. You could say it looks tattered, which is very Dracula-like, and any artist who can invoke Dracula in their Batman art gets a thumbs up from me. A large part of what I like about Batman as a concept and character is his spookiness. Not many superheroes have that. Just look at Superman, Spider-Man, Flash, Captain America, Green Lantern. They're all colorful, while Batman is a creepy wraith, stalking in the shadows. Not all Batman artists can convey that, but that's certainly not a problem Norm ever had. I prefer this cover to the previous one because Batman's pose is more dynamic here, and I really like his broad, hunched over shoulders. Because we only see him from behind, he almost looks even scarier. What type of hideous face is this bat creature hiding from us? Instead of rain and lightning, we here get spooky trees and a swarm of bats. And as much as I like the former, the latter is even cooler. Instead of an alley, we get the outskirts of London, with the city and Big Ben being visible in the background. The structures look great and very gothic, which goes really well with the image of Batman. I keep saying the word spooky, but yeah, there's just something really spooky about this cover. To reference Dracula again, it kind of invokes the image of Dracula arriving in London, alongside a swarm of bats. The moon certainly adds to the spookiness, and feels very fitting too considering the story's title, An American Batman in London. Detective Comics 593. So here we are again, another few months later in 1988. I guess Norm was really on fire that year. This was incidentally still very early in his career, as he began drawing Batman comics in late 1987. Anyway, as you may know, this is a cover to the second part of the story that introduced Cornelius Stirk, a character I did a video on very early in my YouTube days. It was actually the second Forgotten Batman Villains video. For those who aren't familiar with Stirk, he's a cannibalistic metahuman serial killer. He's got the power to somehow make you see him as anything he wants. A beautiful woman, a demonic monster, Abe Lincoln. You could say he's a bit of a cross between Scarecrow and Clayface in terms of powers. The image on this cover depicts a scene from the climax of that story, where Stirk has Batman captured and tied up in his apartment. There he torments the poor bat with freaky hallucinations. This cover perfectly illustrates that scenario. We got a monstrous Cornelius, a giant creature with massive fangs, and a small, terrified Batman caught in a beast's jaws. It's all exaggerated, of course, but it's great great symbolism of that scene. Sturk is a horrifying demon, and Batman is helplessly captured in his grasp. In other words, this cover is nothing like the two previous ones. Batman is not some scary badass here, he looks more like a pathetic little mouse. But that's where Norm excelled as well, different types of expressions. He was great with facial expressions and dramatic poses, and could depict Batman in any type of state or emotion. Norm's Batman was a stalwart Dark Knight for sure, but he was also a human. Batman 465. Published in 1991 and featuring Tim Drake on his first official night out as Robin. We certainly jump ahead in time here. The previous three covers took place when Jason Todd was still alive. By this time, Norm had moved over from detective to Batman. So this cover is actually a recreation of an old Golden Age Batman cover from the early 40s. Norm has basically modernized that image for the 90s, featuring his dynamic style and of course Tim in his new Robin costume, as opposed to Dick in the briefs and elf boots. Norm was actually the one who designed this new 90s Robin costume, and I like it a lot more than the old classic one. The added armor, the added pants, and the darker colors look way better. Anyway, so the image itself. Now we're back to just posing in a cool way, which again can look boring, but not when it's drawn by Breyfogle. The man could make a brick wall look dynamic. Of course, there is a bit more going on here, with Batman and Robin getting caught by a spotlight, almost as if they're fugitives hunted by the law. That's what this image evokes to me, the cops hunting Batman and Robin, which of course brings to mind Batman Year 1. Now, nothing like that actually happens in the story, as this cover is really just meant as an homage to that old 40s comic. That is a classic Batman and Robin image after all, and this was Tim's proper intro as Robin, which is probably why Norm went in this direction. As usual, Batman looks amazing, with his big cape blowing all over the place. He's also covering up his face, again kinda Dracula-like. The mysterious, spooky Batman is a nice contrast to the colorful little Robin. Robin himself looks pretty badass here too though, which he certainly did not in the Golden Age. When I think about it, this may just be my favorite image of the dynamic duo. And now for my favorite Norm Breyfogle Batman cover, Batman 451. Published in 1990, it's the second part of Joker's big return following a death in the family. I've actually talked about this one before, as it's my favorite Joker cover of all time, so I'll be pretty brief. If you want to hear more, I suggest you check out my old Joker covers video. Like I said earlier, Norm was great at facial expressions and illustrating emotions, and that includes manic ones. Nobody can draw a better crazy Joker than Norm. His Joker face is just something special. Just look at that psychotic, gleeful lunatic. I also love Joker's outfit here, the coat and the hat. He's also got slightly longer hair than usual, which makes him look even crazier. The blasting Tommy gun, the bats, and naturally Batman as a wraith-like demon in the background lunging at this insane bastard. What an awesome looking cover. And these are two awesome looking dudes. A dark creature of the shadows and a zany, colorful maniac. What a pair. I often complain about Joker being overused, but images like this almost makes me forget all that and just enjoy the guy. So yeah, my favorite Norm Breyfogle Batman cover, because how could it not be? What a shame he never drew a Two-Face cover, cause if he had, it would certainly have been on here. So there you have it. Those are my top 5 Batman covers by the master. Rest in peace, Norm. You've left a very impressive legacy behind you and will never be forgotten.